If you want to be a decent human being, just refer to people as like the pronouns they want to go by.
We don't respect people's pronouns when they tell us. You dig up a male's body who transitioned, and you're gonna see male bones.
Cool. Didn't ask for all the yapping.
And males and women are prescribed a certain behavior in the Bible.
Hey, did you know that males are born with estrogen in their body naturally?
Yeah, you're cooked, pal. Yeah, you're not a woman, but that's a biological predisposition. When they get pregnant, their breasts get bigger because they fill up with milk.
Hello and welcome to Platinum Politics. I'm your host Mace, and today I have another fantastic debate for you. Today's debate night is on the topic of transgender. More specifically, the topic of whether or not trans women are women. This debate is another old stream that was streamed back in July, similar to the abortion debate that we had a couple videos ago. This should be the last debate that I have to edit from so far back, and the goal from now on is to edit them and upload them a whole lot sooner. The rest should be mostly in order, at least more recent. To my knowledge, I think both of these participants are no longer in the server anymore, so I don't know what to say. But for a quick introduction, Brian is a Christian nationalist who does not believe that trans women are women, and DCAS is a trans woman who does in fact believe that she is a woman. It turned out to be an interesting debate, but you're the judge. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Without further ado, it's debate night.
Any way you look at it, trans women are just women and trans men are men. And you get to this conclusion, basically, I kind of know where this is going to go already. I'll just say it off the bat. Gender and sex are different. They haven't always been different, but the meanings of words do change over time. This is something you see with a lot of things. And especially with the way that technology and being social has changed for the past decade or two. Words can change at an exceedingly faster rate. So this is where you get the discrepancy between saying gender and sex are synonyms versus just saying gender is its own thing now. And it's not that it was a newly created thing, but now that we have a word for it, we have a word to describe what these people have been feeling for all this time. And yeah, pretty much I feel like if you just want to be respectful, if you want to be a decent human being, just refer to people as the pronouns they want to go by. And it's just a sign of disrespect to just do anything else, because of just simply that there's no other way to go about it. If you can't be oh well, you say this, but it's different. No. If someone says they're a woman, then why would you not say they're a woman? Why would you not use she her pronouns? Why would you not use their preferred name? It's literally just basic respect. You want to be called this way, you don't want to be called this way. Okay, I got you. I'll call you this way. I won't call you this way. And factually, the concept of gender just being the way it is as we know it, as I will further explain later in this debate, literally it supports this. That's the rest. I'll give it the rest of my time. I'm done.
All right, yield your time, Brian. 4 minutes starts now.
Okay, so a couple things that I'd like to address there. The first thing is, I think it's pretty evident even by the debate title that trans women are not women, because you could just say women are women, but there's a distinguishing ontological factor that makes you have to separate trans women from women, and they're obviously not women, or else you could just say women are women and men are men, and we would automatically intrinsically know what a woman is if it just had an intrinsic definition that was different from what it actually is. So even the title of the debate kind of destroys the position, but I would also say a couple things in regards to the difference between gender or gender identity in regards to sex, is that sex is obviously biological. It's just an inherent fact. You are the sex that you're born as. And I'm not somebody that disagrees that gender identity is a concept. Although when we referred to gender in days past, DCAS here said that they used to be synonyms. In reality, when we referred to gender before the post-war sexual revolution movement, when we referred to gender, we referred to language. It was a linguistic term that referred to words being gendered. For example, a restroom. Now, we wouldn't say the restroom has a sex. We wouldn't say the restroom has a sex because it doesn't have chromosomes. It's not a human. It doesn't have a penis or a vagina. The restroom has a gender that is correspondent with the sex, but it is correspondent with the sex. Now, gender identity is a factual reality. It was coined by a pervert sexologist named Alfred Kinsey, pioneered by John Money, Harvey Milk, a bunch of these gay rights activists in the latter half of the 20th century. By the way, Alfred Kinsey, the guy who invented the term, was a pederast who enlisted people. He was an enlisted pederast. He enlisted homosexual pederasts and pedophiles to sexually children, and he recorded their. So that's the origin of the movement here. But you have him coining the phrase gender identity, changing it from its original term, meaning gender as in like things that are gendered, concepts that are gendered, linguistic words that are gendered, to the new term gender identity. And we kind of reflexively move away from understanding that sex is corresponding with our gender identity and our roles, our gender roles in civilization, and that it ought to be that way because it is that way, into a new kind of system, and where people thought that they could relatively change that manner of thinking. So I would say that gender identity is real. I would say that the way that we behave is associated with our gender. A man ought to behave like a man because he is a man. Now, we have corresponding identities to what a man is. I would say a man truly isn't a man until he has people that rely on him. Now, does that take away his biological sex? Obviously not. But it does take away the fact that I have an idea about what a man is supposed to be, how he is supposed to behave, and that is gender identity. I just believe that you have a biological inclination to behave as your sex predisposes you to behave, and I believe that you have a duty to do that. So that would be my position as opposed to DCAS's position.
All right, DCAS, we're gonna go ahead and give you, we'll just say 4 minutes. We'll keep it 4 minute. 4 minutes for an uninterrupted rebuttal to what he had just said.
Okay, so back to the very first thing you said. Well, it's called an adjective, you know. An adjective is a word that is used to not change but modify a noun. You might have learned this in like, I don't know, like first grade or something. So when I say a trans woman is a woman, I am saying a woman is a woman. I'm just using the adjective trans so you know more specifically what I'm talking about. Like if I say a black woman is a woman, a short woman is a woman, you get the point. A woman, I am saying a woman is a woman, so the title of it does not defeat the purpose. It's all the same thing. And yeah, I do agree that sex is biological, right? You can't change that, obviously. I can't like go into my chromosomes and just edit obviously I can't do that. But the idea that gender is separate, it's entirely socially constructed. And a lot of what you see people in these types of debates saying is to be like, oh well, what is a woman? And then you'll see like people struggle to like define it. And I do think it's a very difficult to define term, not because I don't know what a woman is. Like I see women all the time, right? But in the same way that a 7-year-old can't tell you what a camera is, right? They'll be like, oh, a camera, it takes pictures, but what's a camera? Oh, wow. Something along the lines of that, where you don't know every like intricate part that goes into it. You just know in your head, yeah, it's a camera. I know what a camera does. I know what a camera kind of looks like. And it's in the same way, right? You like if you a way that I explain to a lot of people is that like if you're speaking to an alien, someone who like doesn't know what any of this is, even though an alien would also have like their own thing, but it's the hypothetical being that doesn't know what any of this is, and you have to explain it. You say, oh, a woman is like someone with a vagina, okay, but you can't look at people's vaginas on the street. A woman is someone with XX chromosomes, but you can't like see that without a blood test. So it's much more easier, and it's much more productive as a society to go along with what they say they are. You say you're a woman, okay. You look kind of like a woman, okay. That's cool. Awesome. Moving on. Another thing, a point against like the movement, but literally John Money proved gender right. Like he proved that what I'm saying is correct. It might have been like a unethical, like horrible experiment that ended in 2 people killing themselves, right? But like we know rocket science because of the Nazis, right? So like it might be unethical. We're not going to replicate that, but we know that the results of his experiments, his hypothesis wasn't proven right at all, but his study did prove that you can't force someone to be a different gender when they're not that gender. He took two cisgendered boys, and then forced them to transition, and it ended in their suicide. So similarly, when you have you have a transgender woman, for example, who is forced to conform to the social and cultural norms that are associated with the male sex, otherwise known as they're forced to be a man, that also tends to end in suicide. And we have many studies that will show this to be true. So you brought up John Money, but it's really a counterpoint to you because John Money proved that transgenderism is like a thing that's valid. Because when you go against that, then people die.
All right, Brian, 4 minutes starts now.
Yeah, so in reference to John Money, he's referring to these twins that were castrated and experimented on by John Money, who pioneered the sex change operation. I think if anything, it actually just proves that it proves my point, which is the reality of the situation, and it's what the Oxford study that I mentioned in my Jubilee debate shows, is that after sex transition, after a certain amount of time, after gender euphoria has weared off, you get a couple problems that all increase by all the data available. Is that suicidality increases, suicide attempts increases, anxiety increases, depression increases, and body dysmorphia actually increases as well. And we not only know this from the Oxford study, but we know it because the American Association of Pediatrics did a joint study with Norwegian country. I forget exactly which one it was. We can find it later, but they found the exact thing that the Oxford study shows, and the leader of the American Association of Pediatrics hid the study. She hid the findings of the study because she said, quote unquote, she didn't want it to be used by the right for evil purposes, which kind of just proves my point. John Money proves my point. He literally castrated two boys early in their life because of basically what happened was a person had a botched circumcision, and so then he goes, oh, we should just castrate them and castrate him and make him a girl. And then he actually forced the boys to have sex with each other, to have simulated sex with each other. He forced a bunch of weird nonsense. The point of bringing that up is that these people funded and created this movement. It all comes from, I think that like this negative poisonous fruit all comes from the same tree, from weird perverts, from weird sex freaks. And I just want to go through, I'd like to go through my epistemology on this. I think that transgender people could be saying 4 things about themselves, and I'd like to go through all 4 of them, and then DCAS can go ahead and respond to them, because I haven't heard a pro-trans activist make any epistemic claim about themselves whatsoever. That's non-falsifiable. So the first thing that I believe that transgenderism could be is onagynephilia. We know what this is. It's a sexual perversion. We've studied it for 250 years at this point, even going back further. It's when men, and I've talked to DCAS before. DCAS has said that he indeed knows people that are like this, where it is a fetish of either embarrassment or it's called onagynephilia. It's a sexual fetish. So that's the first thing that I think it could be. The second thing that I think it could be is a body dysmorphic disorder, which, by the way, the sexual fetish, that's falsifiable. That means that it's false. The claim that they're making about themselves isn't true, that they are a woman. The second thing is onagynephilia, a body dysmorphic disorder and gender identity disorder as laid out in DSM-4, DSM-5. The problem that you're going to have there is that's also falsifiable. Same thing that we would have in an anorexic patient. If an anorexic patient has a body dysmorphic disorder, as defined in the DSM-4 is the same thing. You have a misperception about the physical reality in involving your own body, and so you seek to change that misperception physically instead of changing it mentally. So we typically would not give a anorexic a tummy tuck because of their delusions. So that's the second thing that transgenderism could be. The third thing that could be is a social contagion. I tend to think that this is happening a lot with the younger kids, where transgenderism and LGBTQism itself is just skyrocketing as an identification. Oh, sorry. Well, the last thing could be a ontological claim, meaning a religious claim, which I have. That's what it can end up being.
Okay, so I have to actually very quickly fix a setting because I am not a professional at this apparently yet. We're gonna turn streamer mode on. All right, we are back. All right, so we're now going to open the floor up for, we'll say, about 15-20 minutes. I'll throw in some questions to guide along as needed. Yeah, floor is open.
I'm here. Sorry. So basically, you were saying that like John Money proves your point. That when people transition medically, they are at a higher risk of killing themselves, which is, well, there's two factors to that, right? The two responses. The first response is that literally, if you were listening to what I was saying, the boys were cisgendered. They had no, like, there was no communication from the boys saying like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable in my gender. There was no like anything. Like, that's why we have these like systems in place to protect people who like are like this, right? You have the consistence, insistence, and persistence for minors, and then adults, well, like most of the time they kind of just assume that adults like know what they want to do. But yeah, the boys, they weren't transgender to begin with. They were forced to transition, which resulted in their death. And that was my point. That people who are forced to be the gender they're not, they don't want to be, results in their death. And then I'll let you respond in a second. But the second point, the second response to that is that saying that individuals who undergo gender affirming care are more likely to kill themselves is frankly very close, almost a one-to-one comparison, by saying, oh yeah, people who are on a ventilator die of asphyxiation more often. That's what I hear when you say that, because it's not because of it. In fact, it's the thing that is preventing or prolonging their life. It's preventing their suicide. It's prolonging their life. Because studies show that untreated bulimia has the same fatality rate as untreated gender dysphoria. So it's a 1 in 5 chance that you're gonna die if you don't do anything.
Yeah, so the first thing that I would say is that that it's infalsifiable. So the first boy was castrated. He was castrated as a child and raised to be believed. This actually proves my point. He thought that he was a biological girl his entire life. His parents told him he was a girl because he had a botched circumcision. He had a botched circumcision. His penis was almost entirely burnt off, and they made a mock vagina. And his parents told him that he was a woman his entire life. In fact, he's a man. He knew that he was a man, and that's why he had persistent problems his entire life growing up, where he was questioning, oh, I don't feel like a woman. Because he's not. He's a man. He's biologically predisposed to act like a man. So the problem that you're going to have, number one, that includes, that it just proves my point. And then number two is that transgender identity is completely infalsifiable. So when you're saying like, it's just a claim that somebody's making about themselves, it's a self-identity. So I could say I'm trans today and then not be trans tomorrow. There's a bunch of walking contradictions. And then they say that sexuality is immutable. That's an immutable characteristic, but sex is not. Sex or gender identity is not. If you change your sex, if you had a sex change operation and I change the way my gender identity is, that in fact changes my sexual orientation. If I'm a straight man, it's women, and I transition to be a woman who likes women, I am now a lesbian. Therefore, sexual identity or sexual, being a homosexual, that's not immutable. So this is what happens when you don't think through your claims. You get a bunch of logical contradictions, and you don't have any epistemic justification for what you believe. So the logic clashes, and it's good thing. It's good that if you're a complete relativist, then you can just, I use this logic for this, and I use this separate logic for this, and I don't care that they contradict each other. But I want you to make an epistemic claim about what transgenderism is, because it's just muddy. It's just I'm asking for a truth claim, okay? And you're just saying, oh, it's. I kind of feel this way, and I feel this way, it's an ambiguity thing, and I just feel this way, and I ought to, but I'm making a truth claim. I'm saying it isn't that way, and we can see that with observable science. We can see what you are, we can see your sex, and your sex is, and so it ought to be reflected in your gender identity. So I don't even get the justification. You don't really have one.
Ryan, Do
What?
do you I don't think you understood what you just said, that entire first half. So the boys were raised their entire lives. They thought they were biological women
One
the
did, one
entire
didn't.
time. They thought they were females.
One
And
did,
then
one didn't.
oh, one did, one didn't. Okay. The one that was castrated thought the entire time that he was a biological female.
Was told
And
that,
then yeah, don't you see the can't just use your brain for a second. Can you drop the comparison between that and the average trans person today?
Yeah, so one is going to be falsifiable and one's going to be infalsifiable. So that's the difference between the distinction and claims. So if I make a claim and I say I am, let's say I was told that I was a woman my whole life, but I had a penis, that's falsifiable. I can falsify that by like looking it up. Okay, so I can go, what kind of person has these genitals, and I can describe my genitals. And it'll pop up and say, oh, a male has that. And so that's falsifiable. The claim that you're making is infalsifiable. So it's saying, I feel this way, right? I'm generally kind of feel a little bit more effeminate, which could be for a bunch of reasons. And so because I feel this way in my own mind, that falsifies physical reality, which is just wrong. That's a bad epistemic justification for your
Okay,
belief.
you were like literally so close to my point. You were almost on my side, and then you went right past it. So basically, I'm saying that the experience of the boy that was castrated is the exact same as me, for example. The entire time I grew up being told I was a man, believing that I was a man, being basically gaslit pretty much. And then if I was not able to socially and medically transition, I would probably not be here. Just like that boy was not here because he didn't he was a boy, he was a man, he was a dude. And he wasn't allowed to be a dude, so that's what happens when you do that.
But he behaved like he behaved. He identified as a man for the rest of like he got told the truth and he started identifying as a man. But he had his penis chopped off and he did a bunch of irreversible surgeries and permanent damage to his body and psyche. And so then he ended up killing himself. And the other one killed himself too, even though he didn't get bottom surgery. So the point is that it just proves my point. And then also, like I said, you're making a falsifiable claim. You're saying that there's a difference between, let's say, I grew up thinking that I was a woman and I never knew that I was a man, but I have a penis and testicles and I grew my beard and I grew my beard and I look like a man. I don't have the deepest voice, but I have a deeper voice than most women. So I would literally look at that and be like, I could falsify that. I could be like, oh yeah, I'm not a woman. This does not fit the description of woman whatsoever. This is a biological reality. I'm not a woman. You are claiming to be a woman. In fact, you're not. That's falsifiable. I can look it up and say, oh, this person has a penis and testicles. This person has X.
Wait, so guys, what is your definition of a woman, that which I am not?
An adult human female.
So that would be contingent if I had XX chromosomes. If I had XX chromosomes in a vagina, you would call me a woman.
Yeah.
How do you know that I'm not a woman?
Because you've told me you have testicles and you sound like a male and you look like a male.
So you think that I can't lie to you?
I mean, I've never met you in person, but I've seen what you look like, and you look like a dude, bro. You look like a poison dude.
I thought you said what I look like doesn't matter. It's my chromosomes.
It is your chromosomes. Your chromosomes, if you leave your chromosomes, like if you just exist, right? If you just exist, your chromosomes predispose how you look, meaning that your chromosomes encourage the way that you look. They tell you how you're going to look. If you have XY chromosomes, that's going to tell you if you're going to get facial hair, if you're going to have an Adam's apple, if you're going to get arm hair, if you're going to get chest hair, if you're going to get all sorts of things, right? And so that infers, if I took your chromosomes, it would just confirm my suspicions. And my suspicions are, you're male. You look like a poisoned male because you've been on estrogen for a while, and so you look sickly, okay? Like, I'm not denying that. But no, you're a male. You look like a male, and that's predisposed by your chromosomes. Yeah,
Okay,
I don't have.
I
You could have
have
gone on into what you actually are. Like you could have just like you could be an actual woman and just sending fake pictures, and you could actually have chromosomes that are. You could just be lying, but your voice sounds deep. If your pictures are real and getting on camera is real, you look like a dude. You act like a dude. You have X, and if we tested you, you would have XY chromosomes. You're a male, and that's just an unchanging fact in reality, naturalistically, just an unchanging fact about yourself.
Okay, question. If a adult human being has, let's say, they have disproportionately large breasts, what would you call them?
I would say they have gyno if it's a male. I would say they have a disorder and they have gyno and they should get that treated. Probably a hormonal imbalance.
But like, just like on average, like the average person, right? You see someone and you're like your friends are talking about you're looking at pictures of tits. Like, what would you think that their gender is?
Well, I don't know what you're referring. Men can get like fake tits. I don't know what that
I'm
means.
saying on average though. Like, we're not even talking about fake tits. Like, they're just tits. Like, tits are associated with what?
So if I see somebody who has tits, right, and they have an Adam's apple, assuming I can have like a little bit of inference skills, I can assume that that person is a male in civilization because we live in a specifically fallen civilization where everybody's confused about basic ontological facts. So yeah, I can usually tell if someone transitions from childhood, it's harder to tell because you've literally chemically castrated a male body for his entire life. So yeah, it's harder to tell sometimes.
Don't
That
scratch your
doesn't
quiet.
change.
I'm gonna make that point in a second.
You dig up a male's body who transitioned 200 years from now, and you're gonna see male bones, and we're gonna be to identify that person by their chromosomes, and they will forever be. And you're not talking to the average conservative here. I believe that there's such a thing as gender identity. I just think that your gender identity ought to reflect your gender or your sex. Your gender identity is a reflection properly of your sex, and you have an ontological duty to behave in the sex that you were created as. And you're a male, and you should act like a male.
Okay, so a lot of things to unpack. You have a lot, but the first thing. So you would agree that having one or two secondary or primary sex characteristics does not define your gender, right?
What do you mean by gender?
Your identity.
Yeah, that's not how I define gender.
It doesn't define your sex either.
Secondary sex characteristics don't generally define your sex.
Yeah. So like if someone has tits and like a little bit softer skin, that doesn't automatically make them female, right? You agree?
No, generally if somebody has tits. Okay, so again, I'll explain this really quickly as well. So if you have an abnormality doesn't disprove a rule. So if a guy has gyno, right? Let's say, heaven forbid, I get gyno, start growing tits or breasts to be more politically correct. Start growing breasts, right? I can go into the doctor and he can go inside of my brain and look at what's happening and diagnose a physical problem physiologically that's going on in my body. He could say, this is going wrong with this gland, or this is going wrong with this gland, and it's causing a hormonal deficiency, which is causing you to overproduce estrogen. And when you overproduce estrogen, you're creating your body is reacting and it's growing tits. Now, if a woman goes in to the doctor and says, Doc, I don't know what's going on. I'm growing boobs. I'm growing breasts. What's happening? The doctor's going to look at you and go, yeah, that's of your nature. You know, what happens to you when you go through puberty is all women, they grow breasts because that's naturalistically predisposed. They're supposed to have breasts because they're the child-rearing sex and they're supposed to feed their children. So the difference, right, is not that you can point to an outlier and say, oh, but what about this guy? The difference is that if I'm looking at primary sex or secondary sex characteristics, we can know almost with 100% certainty what that person's sex is, because secondary sex characteristics are by definition a reflection of your sex.
Cool. Didn't ask for all the yapping, but like I guess you answered. The point I was getting at is you basically agreed, yes, these secondary sex characteristics do not define your sex because there are exceptions to rules. Right, yes. So how can you say that you can always
secondary
tell?
sex characteristics are a descriptor of your sex.
Wait, so what? Wait, Okay, you're confusing me now. Are you saying that they are a reflection of your sex?
Yes.
So if I have enough secondary sex characteristics that align with the female sex, does that make me female?
You can't have, again, I just explained this, dude. So again, if a man, let's say a man and a woman go into a doctor's office and they're trying to conceive.
But I'm not talking about the doctor's office. I'm talking about like in public.
I know. So first of all, reflections aren't a case of reality, right? So I can pretend to be black. I can spray paint my skin black. I can pretend to be black. That's not a reflection of my physiognomy, of my race, or of my. It's not a reflection of anything that has to do with my psychology that is attached to race. It has nothing to do with anything that's attached to race physiologically. So just because you reflect yourself in public as something doesn't mean that you're actually that thing. You're not a reflect. It's not. And yeah, you can fake sex characteristics. Women have a biological predisposition to blush, and that's why they put blush on, and that's to reflect a secondary sex characteristic that attracts men to women. So I can wear blush. That doesn't mean I'm a woman. I could wear blush with my beard on right now. I can go, oh, look at me.
That's still like one or two things. I'm saying all of them together. If I have every single thing but a uterus, what am I? I have a vagina, I have tits, I have soft skin, I don't grow facial hair, blah, 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 so on and so forth.
Why would you have a vagina?
Because you can surgically get your penis turned into a vagina.
No, you cannot. You can get your penis turned into an axe wound that you have to physically...
Yeah. The far right talking point that everyone says, literally, it's an axe wound. No, it looks exactly like a vagina. The only difference is you have to dilate once a week and it doesn't lubricate itself. For all other intents and purposes, it looks like a vagina. It feels like a vagina.
I'll have to take your word on that one, champ. I haven't seen any of those, but what I will say is that
I want to throw a question in here because I feel like I've actually seen a couple people in chat ask this question. Brian, you have made the claim that your gender identity, we all are agreeing that there's a thing called gender identity and a thing called sex. Why? I feel like you need to clear up more. Why should your gender identity align with your biological sex? What is the importance of that?
Okay, so I would use natural theology to explain that. So I would say that essentially make an ought from an is claim. So human nature and sexual dimorphism is obviously stated and clear. So according to natural law, human beings are embodied rational animals. So we can rationalize what we are, how we are, and how we ought to behave. And a social label in physical reality ought to reflect how we are. So you cannot have somebody who is something and is pretending to be the opposite. Your substance should be axiomatic. Your substance should be reflective. Your substance is that you're a male, okay? So you ought to act like a male. Now, males, gender identity is reflective. Sorry, is my lighting good? Someone said something about my lighting. Gender identity is contingent, okay? So gender identity isn't just like random. It does have informatives. So your gender identity is typically informed from your sex because what are some of the things that we associate with masculinity? We associate aggressiveness. We associate violence. We associate less hormonal regulation problems and less emotionality. All those things are biological, but they inform how we ought to behave. Because you can behave in the opposite way. I can behave in a bad way. I ought not to because I have rationality. I have a fundamental understanding of what the good is, and so I ought to act good. And so if something is a way, right, you can use your rationality to inform yourself of how you ought to act. And that's natural theology. That would be an expletive of that would be an explanation of why we ought to act in certain ways. And then we're going to get into theology. So, I mean, if you're some sort of nihilist, if you don't believe, if you're a consequentialist, I know that our friend here is like a Greek atheist or a Hellenistic pagan or something. I don't know. Probably squares that with that weird like theology, but you can use natural theology to know things, and you ought to behave in the way that you are predisposed to behave is the claim.
I would instantly counter that and say that it is a completely separate thing. Basically, it is entirely a social construct in every sense of the word, and it is often correlated with sex. So that's why you see most females are women, most males are men, but there are exceptions to this. There are
Did you say
oh most females are
women
women.
are
Yeah, most women are females, and then most men are males. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. But yeah, it's like in the same way that, like, I don't know, think of like what is a clown, right? What is an e-girl? Like these things that, like, we as a society we define them as certain things, but it's not like attached to any specific like science or anything. It's just we say it's a thing.
okay, you're not attaching any biological descriptors to clown. A woman can be a clown and a man can be a clown. But there are biological predescriptions of the word woman. Woman means an adult human female, and an adult human female is a female and therefore has the descriptors of the female sex. Even if you don't want to attribute it, you still have to say that people that identify with the gender identity of womanhood want to mimic the female sex. That's what it's designed to do. You want to behave in ways that the female sex naturally behaves, correct?
Yeah, I guess I should also define my terms. So I define a woman as someone that goes along with these social and cultural norms associated with the female sex, and the same thing with men. I think a man is someone that aligns themselves with the social and cultural norms associated with the male sex. So that's the only that's where it stops basically. It has nothing more to do with the female or male sex.
How are cultural norms prescribed to biological sexes?
It's just what we do. We put labels on things. We say you're in this group, you should act like this. You're in that group, you should act like that.
Are they descriptors or prescriptors?
A descriptor or a prescriptor?
Are you prescribing certain cultural behavior onto a specific sex, or is it just describing natural proclivities?
A mix of both. See, like, some things, like, I think women are just more like nurturing, or they're more like biologically, like, when it comes to females, they're more like inclined to do certain things because of their sex, because they're like reproducing and taking care of a child, right? But there are other things, like, I don't know, like, there's nothing biological about wearing makeup or having long hair or something like that.
I just explained to you what's biological about makeup. What's biological about wearing makeup is that, like, women wear blush because women actually that's a biological evolutionary thing where women blush in their cheeks, and that attracts males to females, and then that induces sex, which induces child rearing and raising. So yes, there are reasons why women do things that have a biological predisposition. There's a reason why they do those things. And actually, the reason why men do them is typically for the same reason, because they're trying to attract males because they're gay.
Well, so I've never heard of that whole like blush thing before you said it, but like I could even use a different example. Like, I don't know, women wearing like high heels or something like that. There's nothing to wearing high heels.
Men wear high heels.
Men used to wear high heels, but like men don't.
I wear high heels right now, buddy.
You wear high heels, Slay King? That is not a fucking high heel, bro. You did.
It's a high heel.
I'm sorry, I almost just on this.
That gives me how many inches? How many inches does that give me?
That's not a high heel, bro.
It's a high heel. It is a heel that's high on a shoe.
As a woman, I know the difference between shoes, and that is not a high heel.
Yeah, you're not a woman, but so here's the thing: is that I'd like to get to an epistemic claim. What truth claim are you making about this? Are you a Gnostic dualist? Is that what's going on here? Are you a Gnostic dualist?
I don't even know what that means, bro.
A Gnostic dualist is somebody who believes that somebody's sex can be Christians, theists of all sorts, we identify with hylomorphism. Hylomorphism states our bodies inform our souls and our souls inform our bodies. They work together and they're complementary. A Gnostic dualist believes that their body and their soul can be in conflict, which it sounds like that's what you're saying, because the other three options are onogynephilia, which is a perversion, which is false. That's a falsifiable claim. Gender identity disorder, which is a body dysmorphic disorder, that's also a falsifiable claim, and a social contagion, which is also just like brainwashing, which is also a falsifiable claim. So what truth claim are you making about transgenderism?
Well, it's really not one claim I can make for everyone, because everyone goes on their own.
Make an epistemic justification for your claim.
It can be a mix of a bunch of different things. It can be many different things individually. Like, I think your brain and your body, or your soul and your physical body, can differ. They can conflict with each other, because, like, as you see all the time, like in nature, like, it's not perfect. Like, things get through the cracks. Like, there are people all over who, like, suffer from other sort of, like, genetic, like, or not genetic, but, like, biological, like, discrepancies.
Because I'm looking for a epistemic justification, meaning I'm looking for a claim based on actual knowledge that's falsifiable. This idiot in the side chat just said, "Why must identity be falsifiable?" It is. If my identity is a male, if I actually have an identity and it's male, and I'm a biological male, that is an identifier. That means that's my identity. If I claim that I'm a woman, that is a falsifiable claim. Okay, I can falsify that claim by just looking at me. You can look at me right now. I'm obviously a male, or you can take a look at my genitals, or you can take a look at my chromosomes.
I don't know, bro. Like, unless you whip it out right now, I don't believe that you're a man, bro. I don't believe that you're male, because you can't tell any other way, according to you.
You'll just have to take my word for it. I'm a male with.
So we respect people's pronouns when they tell us.
No, we don't respect people's pronouns when they tell us.
So why am I taking your word for it? I need a blood sample right now so I can test your chromosomes.
You can.
You could be a trans man this whole time. You could be a double agent. Not genuinely. Trans men, like, people like to hold on. People like to, like, get on the backs of trans women all the time, like in the media and in these debates. But trans men, they don't get shit. You wanna know why? Because testosterone is one hell of a drug. So if you came out one day and said that, oh yeah, I was actually a trans man the whole time, I would believe you.
You know why trans men don't get shit is because no one's afraid of women, and men are more predatory than women, and men who go into the women's restroom, or who play in women's sports, or who go into women's changing rooms, those are predatory people. If a woman who blends in, who kind of is passing, is in my restroom and I don't notice, I'm not scared of that chick. I'm not like, oh, this girl's gonna hit me, and
he went there with the bathroom.
Right. So I want to pull some people. I want to pull some people up here. There's a couple people who have some questions.
Wait, Mace. I want to hammer this point home, because there's still not an epistemic justification being made. Because I just went through. There's four. Like I said, there's four things that this claim could be, and I said 3 of them are falsifiable. 1 of them are infalsifiable because it's a religious claim. And our friend Decas here just said that it could be a combination of all 4. And he said to me in the past that it could be, there are trans people that are just like sexual like they like to identify as women in public because it turns them on. It's a sexual fetish. And so they're saying, oh yeah, it can be any of those. Okay, but 3 of those are falsifiable claims. I can say, but that's not true. So if you're making a truth claim,
contingent on gender and sex being the same. You keep saying, oh, if I'm a woman and I look down and I have a penis, I'm not a woman. Yeah, you can be a woman with a penis. There are chicks with dicks. Like, it's not falsifiable of the social construct.
Okay,
you can say you're not female, right? But you can't say you're not a woman based on your penis.
If I'm a man and in relation to my sex, right? Because we have to actually explore what onogynephilia is, which you admitted that there are some trans people that participate in onogynephilia. People that you know, in fact. So if let's explore what it is for a second. If I'm a man in relation to my sex, I know my sex, and I'm not referring to me, but as a man, if you have onogynephilia, you know your sex. In relation to your sex, you identify as female in public as an embarrassment fetish, because it's a fetish to identify as the opposite sex, the weaker sex in public. That's the fetish, and you've admitted that some trans people have onogynephilia, and so if it's that, then they know their sex. They know it's a falsifiable claim, as they do with the body dysmorphic disorder, as they do with a social contagion. It's a falsifiable claim, therefore we should completely disregard it. Why should I care about somebody's delusions in regards to their own personal experiences? I can say I'm black right now.
Wait, what is it? Regardless of if it's a gender identity thing or a, like, as you say, sexual perversion, if it's autogynephilia, why would you go through the trouble of just discrediting them for it?
Because it's a false claim. If I claim to be black and I go and get a scholarship with the
but like in your day-to-day life, right? If someone tells you, yeah, I go by she, her pronouns, are you gonna be like, oh, well, you seem a bit too excited right now in this interaction. Are you an autogynephilic? Like, why would you care that much? Like, so what if someone gets off by you referring to them as a woman? Like, that doesn't, I don't care, bro.
You just say, so what if a man gets off with me referring to them as a woman in public? I don't want to get off. First of all, I believe in social norms, I believe in virtue, and I believe in modesty. So I don't want men running around in dresses, getting off in public to misrepresenting themselves under false pretenses and pretending to be the opposite.
Let me use an example here, right? Let's say you're like a criminal, right? You're about to rob me. You're about to like beat the fuck out of me and take my wallet. Let's say I'm a masochist and I want you to beat the fuck out of me. Are you going to care that I'm a masochist, or are you going to keep doing as you were going to do before?
If I'm beating the shit out of you and you start moaning and doing a bunch of weird sexual stuff, I'm going to leave. Even somebody who's robbing you would do that. That's weird and perverted and disgusting. So yeah, I would change my behavior based on your response to it. If I was a psychopath who wanted to just beat the shit out of you and rob you, and you start telling me like, oh, I'm getting off to this, I would literally run away. Like, I would just ride.
Hey, Brian, I have a secret to tell you. Debating in front of a larger group of people, that kind of turns me on.
Yeah, you're cooked, pal.
Are you gonna leave the stage now?
I kind of want to be honest.
But do you see my point though? It's so stupid to just be like, oh well, it's because of this, which I don't agree with. So like it's weird, right? I don't think autogynephilics are like, I don't think like people like Lily Tunio, for example. I think she's like autogynephilic, but I still call her a she because I'm not discrediting everyone else because of this minority of people that's like kind of fucking weird.
Decast. There's two. So you're obviously not going to address the epistemic principle. So I'll move on to this. Do you think that we should be doing things to people that are objectively harmful to them?
Wait, could you rephrase that?
Yeah. So like, have you ever heard of the like, I referred to Alec Gunter with this because he's a nurse, and there's a specific oath that he takes that's different from the blanking on it. What's the oath that surgeons and doctors take, physicians?
Hippocratic oath.
So there's the Hippocratic oath says do no harm, and it talks about curing and treating ailments, injuries, and diseases. In order to identify this as a disease, you'd have to properly identify physiologically what's happening in the body in order to properly address it. But from the science we have on this, we know that taking estrogen as a man, I can just go through some of it. It can cause myocarditis. It can give you bone cancer and osteoporosis. It causes bone growths, and it causes capillary and vein enlargement. It causes a bunch of issues with the heart. It can cause myocarditis. It can cause infertility. It can cause pineal gland problems. It can give you cancer all over your body. So, and with women, it's even worse. Testosterone treatment can kill you. If you're taking testosterone, it can kill you very fast. It's guaranteed to shorten your life. So I believe that the Hippocratic Oath not only doesn't allow for transgender treatment, but like says that it cannot happen, because you're not only not treating a disease, because your physical sex cannot be identified as a disease. You're not only treating a disease, but purposefully harming somebody in trying to treat a non-existent disease that's really just a biological descriptor of who you are. So my view is that we wouldn't give a tummy tuck to somebody who has anorexia. An anorexic has a body dysmorphic disorder, which means they have a misperception of their physical person in reality, right? So they are not actually anorexic. They're not actually anorexic, or they're not actually too skinny, right? Or too fat. They think they're too fat and they have a misperception, so they starve themselves. We wouldn't say, yeah, in order to affirm that, we're going to give you a tummy tuck and fuck your body up even worse and make you even more malnourished and eventually kill you. That's not an appropriate response, and we do have medical proof that this will, in fact, shorten people's lives, especially when you do it to children and you destroy puberty with puberty blockers and opposite sex hormones.
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack, but I think you're saying a lot of like big scary things that could happen as a side effect from taking estrogen when you're forgetting that most medications, period, of any nature, have a long list of side effects. Like, yeah, it could give me osteoporosis, it could give me this, it could give me that. So, no. Let me finish. So, if we go to like something like fluoxetine, for example, it's a common antidepressant that they prescribe to people. It's like, hey, it's a starter. Like, hey, you're depressed, you're not getting better. Let's try fluoxetine. So yeah, headache, nausea, dry mouth, increased sweating, nervousness, trouble sleeping, sexual side effects, not going to get into that, yawning, weakness, uncontrollable shaking of the body, unusual dreams. Here's where it gets serious. Suicidal thoughts, serotonin syndrome, seizures, allergic reactions, increased bleeding, abnormal heart rhythms, right? Mania or hypomania, low sodium level. Like, it keeps going. So just naming like
you just destroyed your own principle. So number one, you just went through an SSRI, so that's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which is also bad science, disproven by not only the American Association of Pediatrics with children, but also multiple other people, including Oxford, including Harvard. They did a study that showed that, and they did sugar pills and SSRIs, and it disproved the chemical imbalance theory about depression. So yeah, that actually proves my point. My point is, when you're taking a drug, if I have cancer and I have to go get chemo, I'm actually treating a disease. The disease will kill me. The cure might kill me, right? But at least they're trying to cure the disease. In this case, there's no disease. It's literally just a misperception. We ought to treat the misperception in your mind and not kill your body in order to falsify this misperception. You just proved my point. SSRIs don't work. SSRIs don't work. The reason why they don't work is because it actually isn't a chemical imbalance theory causal to depression. That actually is faulty science. And when you take an SSRI and it gives you suicidal thoughts, you're actually not doing anything, because the SSRI doesn't even help with depression, because the chemical imbalance theory is falsifiable. It's a faulty science. It got destroyed. It's a terrible, like,
wait, I'm so confused. So are you just against like medicine?
No, I'm not against medicine. Chemo is great. If you have to take chemo to fight off cancer, that's great, but there's an actual problem there. There is a real problem with depression. So
that's contingent on there being a problem, yes? If there was a problem, you would find a solution, right?
If there's a physical problem with your body, you can take a physical substance to cure the problem, and if the physical substance that is designed...
So you don't believe in mental disorders, is that it?
No, I don't believe... First of all, you're treating the body for a mental disorder. You just proved my point yet again. You should treat the mental disorder and not the body. Why would you carve up the body for a mental disorder?
Well, there's nothing wrong with changing your body in a healthy way to be more like what your brain wants. So there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Like, you use the example of anorexia. You use the example of anorexia when literally, like, you can lose weight on anorexia. The doctors just don't want you to throw up and starve yourself. As long as you're being supervised by these medical professionals, then you can change your body to be more like what your brain is saying. Just don't do it in an unhealthy way. The equivalent of that for gender would be if I took a pair of scissors and cut off my dick, as opposed to getting gender reassignment surgery. I'm being monitored every time I go to the doctor. They're like, hey, can we get like a blood test? Like, can you get some blood? Can you draw some blood? Because they care. They want to make sure I'm not fucking dying. They want to make sure I'm good. like being monitored by these medical professionals, and that's what makes it okay. That's the difference.
DCAS, address the problem. So the problem is, number one, when you're anorexic, not one physician in the history of the world would say, yeah, keep not eating. So bulimia is different from bulimia is different from anorexia. Bulimia involves forced puking. Anorexia is just the dysmorphic disorder where you see yourself as fat when you're actually super skinny. So no, not one doctor would say it's okay to keep not eating a healthy amount. You have to eat, even though you're seeing yourself as fat. You have to eat, and you have to start seeing yourself as normal. And let's go through that mentally. Let's go through some exercises. I forget what it's called, but it's like a type of psychiatry that involves it's behavioral therapy, right? Behavioral psychotherapy is where you literally just say, what's the problem? Address the problem, steps to cure the problem, and boom, that's it. It's treating a disease where the disease is. If there is a disease in transgenderism, it's in the mind. You don't carve your penis up because you have a problem in your mind. That's a that's a complete, you're misdiagnosing and mistreating the actual problem. If you have a problem in your mind, right? You don't treat something that has nothing to do with your mind. You have a faulty misperception. Okay,
well, you're kind of just like completely missing the point I'm making. Like, I'm not saying if you're saying, right, that if you're skinny, the doctor would not tell you that you can lose more weight, right? That would be the equivalent of if I was already a biological female, if I was already a woman, if I looked exactly like a biological female, and I was like, yeah, I don't look feminine enough. That would be the same. Now, instead, right, what I'm saying is that if you're fat or if you're overweight and you're like, yeah, I really don't like my body, I want to lose weight, the doctor will say, hold on, no, don't starve yourself. You need to eat, right? But you can eat less. You can portion yourself. You can get these healthy calorie deficiency. That's what the doctor does. And
if you're anorexic, you're dangerously thin, and you have it's not that you think you're thin and you are thin, which would be analogous with what you just said, but you just made a non sequitur. You're skinny, you're dangerously skinny, and you think you're fat. So no doctor is going to be like, yeah, you can still like remain. What they're going to say is, you think you're fat, you're actually dangerously skinny and malnourished, you're dying. So you have to eat this, and this. Eat healthy.
Then that wouldn't be what it is. That's a completely different thing then.
You're not. It's completely analogous. You're literally just not understanding.
It would be the same if you were overweight. Your body doesn't align with what your brain says. You're overweight and you want to be skinny. Then your doctor would be like, don't starve yourself.
And you see yourself as fat.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not anorexia anymore. It's since it's not anorexia, that's what I'm saying a different thing. If you're fat and you're skinny, yeah, I know what anorexia is. You just explained it to me 3 times. I'm saying not anorexia, but something else, a different scenario, a completely different hypothetical in which you are fat and you want to be skinny. You would take the medical precautions with the professionals and they would work with you to be skinny so your brain can match with what your body says. In the same way, your medical professionals will monitor you and give you what you need so your body can match your brain. That doesn't even include surgery most of the time. Most trans people don't even opt for bottom surgery. It's just I want to have breasts.
Which is their entire position, by the way. If you're a woman who doesn't even desire to have a vagina, then how do you even desire? That destroys your other premise that being a woman does include prescriptors of the female sex, and if you want to be a woman and yet you want to have a penis and have sex with women, you don't want to be a woman. You don't even have the inclination to be a woman, so that you're not even trans. You don't even have the faulty misperception.
Are flat-chested women not women? If you're a cis woman and you have a flat chest, does that make you less of a woman than a woman with a big chest?
No, you would be not only an exception that doesn't disprove the rule, but you would also, if you get pregnant,
not even that far of an exception. I know a lot of flat-chested people.
Also,
ever been to Asia?
Yeah, flat-chested either, because even flat-chested women have breasts, but they're just smaller. And also, when that's a biological predisposition, when they get pregnant, their breasts get bigger because they fill up with milk. Like their milk ducts become active. And when women are on their periods, their breasts change sizes. That's not even analogous. Men that are pretending to be women have fake tits on their chest. They have silicone in their body. By the way, that also kills them. That gives them cancer, gives them breast cancer. So just another.
Okay, being in the sun gives you skin cancer too. Like if you're in the sun too long, you get skin cancer. Like you're speaking on these very small percentage chances of it actually happening, as if it happens all the time.
In your chest, that's cosmetic.
And
you have to be in the sun. Have to be in the sun. Vitamin D and vitamin C. You have to be in the sun every day because that's just kind of how it exists. But you don't have to you go to the doctor and get silicone breast implants to mimic the opposite sex to have a fetish in public about being the opposite sex and get hard in public.
Again, you're talking about this very small minority of people, as if we're like most of us are not fetishized. And also, I don't have silicone in my chest. That is another minority. You're just latching onto these small percentages of the trans community.
You're taking estrogen to get breasts, and estrogen also kills you and gives you cancer, and it can give you breast cancer when you're a male, because that's not supposed to be there. Going back to natural theology, right?
Wait,
if we go back,
it gives you cancer?
Yeah, as a man, estrogen gives you cancer. It can give you prostate cancer.
Hey, did you know that males are born with estrogen in their body naturally?
Holy shit. No, I didn't know that. Holy what? No, obviously I know that. Women have testosterone. Women have testosterone in their body. Yeah. When you're taking estrogen, you're trying to take enough estrogen to induce side effects that give you secondary sex characteristics. You're taking the amount of estrogen that wouldn't normatively be present in a male. So that's what gives you the negative health benefits. Nobody's saying take the normal amount of estrogen that males naturally.
You think just males and females are different species? Because genuinely, these are natural parts of our body that we're just changing to be different. It's not like a foreign substance that's gonna completely destroy and poison our bodies. Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
How many milligrams per deciliter do males produce of estrogen?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, so let's look this up. I think I know, but let's look this up. Okay, so women produce a significant more amount of estrogen than men. So let's see the exact detailed breakdown. So males produce 8 to 40 pisograms per milliliter, PG per milliliter. Females produce 350 to 300.
Where are you getting that?
Just on the AI.
I looked up the same thing. It says 10 to 100.
No, it's 10 to 100 pilogram. Actually, it's not even the same. So no, it's saying 200 to 350 PGs per milliliter
during ovulation. Typically,
yeah. So they ovulate
when you're just chilling. It's 10 to 100.
No, it's not. Do you know what 10 is? That's less than. What are you talking about? No, it says right here 200 PGs. It ovulates from 200 PGs per milliliter. As high as 350 PGs per milliliter, and they fluctuate based on menstrual cycle. If you have 10 PGs per milliliter, you're dying as a woman. You're dying. You're gonna die. And then how much testosterone do men produce versus women? So by the way, that's almost so men produce 10 PGs per milliliter. Women produce 350 at the high end, 200 at the low end. So that's I suck at math. Don't times how many? Like 100 times probably 10 amount. But then let's look at testosterone production among men versus women. Let's look up that. Just to be clear, this is what gives you cancer. If you take estrogen as a male, you're gonna get prostate cancer eventually. So let's look up men. Let's look up men.
I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't be making these critical points based off of just Google searches. But that aside, literally, it just doesn't prove that it's like some poison in your body having high estrogen as a male. Some males just naturally have higher estrogen.
Yeah, and they're treated for that because it affects not only their behaviors, but it affects them. It gives them cancer.
So
that's what
we're gonna pull some people up here. We're gonna see if any of these questions can help us understand each other here. First up is Mythic Spider, who I think we're all familiar with.
All right, so I want to harken in on this because this was a very interesting point that was raised, the estrogen and testosterone thing, but I think it's best that we approach it with statistics that are readily available. So the amount of estrogen, yes? Yeah, the amount of estrogen difference between a woman in a man is 4 to 8 times. So if you were to match a man to a woman's, you would need to add 4 times to 8 times, depending on a couple of dozen different factors, of the estrogen already in that person's body.
By the way, Mythic, you would have
And
to
then-
have to take testosterone suppressors too, because you can't have the same amount of testosterone. It kind of, if a man has 400 milliliters per deciliter of testosterone, and then he just starts taking estrogen, you're gonna have to dampen the testosterone too, because those cancel, like that won't be as effective as
Yes,
if
Well, no,
and-
it depends
Hold
on
on.
what type of estrogen you take, because if you take injectable estrogen like I just started, you don't need to take testosterone blockers because the estrogen just blocks out the testosterone on its own. Your body regulates itself.
And then there is the very much known reality. There is no saying this is not the case. We very much know this to be the case. Many of the ways that this number is brought up to the requirement for men to start developing female secondary characteristics does indeed cause issues. Because I saw someone mention gyno and male breast development during, typically, in the case, this is why it happens so much in America, low testosterone teenagers going through puberty. That condition is orders of magnitude less of the required amount of estrogen. So let's just answer that question, because a bunch of people were saying that. Very different levels of operation here. But back to you two. It is very much not a medical, who gives a shit, injecting this amount of either estrogen or testosterone, doesn't fucking matter which, into a person. There are several points of error, whether it's in relation to bone, heart. I've heard mentions of the brain, but that is more theory, so there's no point. And even attempting to entertain that there is zero medical effect, which is what you weren't being pressed on it enough, in my opinion, DCAS, but that's kind of what I thought you were getting at there. From injecting 4 times the amount of estrogen someone should have is insane. It has a pretty marked effect on their health. We know it does because Britain and the National Health Service of all groups did acknowledge that there is actually a noticeable possible decrease in long-term, by the decade, not a quick thing, of one's health from this, because it wouldn't matter what you're injecting. If you put this much shit into any human body that is operating in the 4+ times amount of how much is supposed to be there, that will cause some problems. Now, it also, of course, causes what you want.
At the low end, it increases your likelihood of prostate cancer by 4%, by 4 times.
So that would be 400%.
Yes, it quadruples your likelihood of getting prostate cancer.
That's not a direct
Estrogen-
effect of it, though. It's just that women tend to get cancer more easily because of the way their cells fucking multiply. It's not like it's giving you cancer. It's just being a woman.
Well, that wouldn't. Okay, so hold on,
women also-
just a second, Brian. That wouldn't change. That would only change the reasoning for his claims. That would not change the end result of his claims. You are drastically increasing your natural risk of cancer via this medication. Whether or not you agree with his reasoning as to how it happens, that's fair, I guess. But you do acknowledge that it does indeed increase the chances significantly. Yes.
Yes, I agree that it does increase chances of health risks. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're far too late to go back for some of the massive pet peeves I had with your argument. But just guys, science and numbers. You're walking unnecessarily.
Sorry if I came off as if I was saying there's all sunshine and rainbows, no problems. I just think the problems are kind of negligible comparative to literally anything else we do. It raises your chances of this and that, but a lot of things do that, and we don't give a fuck.
DCAS, are you saying that we should physically harm people? By your own acknowledgement, we should physically harm people, mutilate them, and poison them in order to satisfy a misperception of biological sex in reality? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a different argument for minors, right? But I feel like adults who want this, they've wanted it for a long time, and they know. I think a big part of it is informed consent. The place.
Wait, DCAS, that's not even true. Wait, hold on. That's not even true. That's not even true.
Let me finish.
Let him finish.
A big part of it is informed consent. The place that I went to for my estrogen is huge on informed consent. I feel like everyone should be treat it like them. They literally sat me down and gave me a piece of paper and read me off every single side effect, every single thing that could go wrong, has gone wrong in the past, or might go wrong. So I feel like as long as you know that shit could happen, and you just think the pros outweigh the cons, I'm a fucking adult. let me shoot up estrogen into my thigh, bro. People fucking smoke, people drink, people stay out in the sun too long, people fucking use consume short form content. You know that shit kills your fucking attention span. Like it's just a bunch of shit that, like, I mean, I guess if you're against all of it, you're consistent, right? But like I'm an adult. I feel like if you, as long as you know what the pros and the cons, and you move forward and you say, yeah, I think the pros outweigh the cons, I want to go forward with this, then sure. Why are we
Hey,
why are we against that?
Decas, if transgenderism is true, if it's a true infalsifiable identity, then why shouldn't we do it to minors? If it's true, then we're actually like we're like screwing up their ability to actually identify and properly pass as a woman for the rest of their life. Like if we castrate them when they're like 5 or whatever, and they, earlier on, then they'll actually be able to pass as a female later on, right? Like they'll actually be able to do that. So if transgenderism is a true ontological mode of existence, then we actually should castrate little kids and cut their genitals off.
Well, see, that's why I said it's a different argument. I didn't say it was not my argument. I just said it's not the argument I'm going to make, because I think that, well, for one, social transitioning for minors should be a thing, no matter what. I don't give a flying fuck what you say. It should not be like outlawed, or like we shouldn't be punishing people for it. Like the Trump administration has been trying to push for it, like fucking getting teachers losing their teaching, like going to jail, like shit like that. I think that's ridiculous, because there's literally no downside to social transitioning as a minor. You literally, if it turns out, like worst case scenario, it turns out you're not trans, you were just like having a hormonal imbalance, or you were just like going through puberty, it turns out you're not trans, you don't want to be a woman, you don't want to be a man. Okay, you have to deal with like the social consequences of just being like, yeah, I guess that was a phase. My name is actually, I'm gonna keep with my original name. Like, there's just no downside to it. Like the worst case scenario, you just have to explain to people that no, you're not trans anymore. As opposed to medical transitioning,
worst case scenario, you start identifying with a group of people that is 40 times more likely than the normal population to kill themselves, and you put and social transition leads to medical transition. If you pretend to be a woman, you are more likely, because this just ignores human nature, by the way. Humans are habitual. So if we practice sin, we're more likely to practice sin. If we practice virtue, we're more likely to practice virtue. Everybody knows that. It's an ontological reality about human nature. And so the more you practice something, we're mimetic. And so the more you practice it, the more you're going to do it. Okay, so social transitioning isn't harmless, because socially transitioning leads to medically transitioning, which leads to castration, which leads to an early death, which leads to like hell, probably, right? So I would say that's probably not good, right? Like,
well, it's not like good. Well, first of all, it's not a sin. I want to be clear about that. What do you say?
Castrating yourself isn't a sin?
Being trans is not a sin, no.
Oh, I thought, well, I mean, according to Christianity, that would be a sin.
Chapter and verse?
Yeah, I mean, we can look at Genesis, and it says that God created them male and female, he created he, them. And then you can also look at, in the Bible, God says that he knew us exactly how we were in the womb. Yeah, 1 Corinthians 6:9. God says that he knew exactly who we were. Our very hairs are numbered, that he knew exactly who we were before we were knitted together in our mother's womb. So yeah, 1 Corinthians 6:9 is a good verse it proves transgenderism is not ontologically feasible as a Christian, and it proves that it's a sin. So yeah, I mean, we also, it says in Leviticus that homosexuals ought to be put to death. So
being trans and being homosexual isn't the same thing.
If you're a man who transitioned to a woman and you're having sex with men and you're getting sodomized, or you're having sex with a guy in your fake vagina and your axe wound, that would be homesexuality. You're having sex with another man.
If a trans woman is asexual, does that make it okay?
No, because she's out of accordance with reality. Like I said, we can look at the verses. I mean, you're not Christian. So we're not going to.
If it's a sin, wait, hold on. I have to get one thing straight with you before I continue. Do you think there's a difference between a sin and a sin punishable by death?
Yeah, there's mortal and venial sins. Yeah.
Okay, two things. The first thing, if it's not punishable by death, then why is it such a main talking point for Christians? Like, don't you think if it was such a bad sin, God would have specifically named it, like it's named homosexuals?
Well, number one, transgender, like people didn't pretend to be women. I do know, do you guys? People
You
weren't
don't know what
pretending to be. No, so I'm responding to a comment. Sorry, but number one, if you're so God created. So number one, from the Christian worldview, this is actually one of the most disrespectful things to our Lord. He says that from the beginning, before we were knitted together in our mother's wombs, He knew us exactly how we are, and He says that He created men and He created male and female, female. He created them in Genesis, and males are prescribed a certain behavior, and women are prescribed a certain behavior in the Bible. In fact, if we go to Corinthians, if we go to Timothy, Paul says that women should be quiet in church and they don't have permission to teach in church or have authority over men. So if a man just transitions, or if a woman just transitions to female, can she then instruct in the church? No, that would be contradictory. That doesn't make any sense within the Christian paradigm. Also, this is kind of a modern creation. The modern notion of transgenderism is a modern notion. So it doesn't really exist outside of sexual perversion in any.
Sorry to cut you off, but do you think?
I mean,
so you think in Genesis, right? God says He created male and female. He created man and woman. So if we had a scientific discovery that would disprove that, would that like stunt your faith in God?
We had a scientific discovery that proved that men are not women and women are not men.
We had a scientific discovery that God did not just create man and woman. It's like saying as if God is real.
Are we gonna get into evolution?
What do you say?
We gonna get into evolution here? What?
No, not evolution. Like something that exists like to this day that kind of puts a wrench in that.
So first of all, there's going to be a distinction here. There's going to be a distinction between an ethics perspective of Christianity, and there's going to be a distinction between Christianity in general. I believe that Christianity is true. Now, the Genesis story, I believe, is true, but I believe that there is a possibility for not evolution, but adaptation. We're not really going to go into that. We can at some point. We can have a separate debate. But when talking about males and females, I can just use Christianity. I don't even have to. I can just use it as an ethical perspective. I could just say like, oh yeah, like natural theology is my advice. We don't even have to use Christianity. We could just use natural theology. Like,
well, don't back away from Christianity now that I have you in a corner.
You don't have me. I mean, like I said, now we're gonna get into an ontological discussion about whether this Genesis myth is true. I believe it is. I believe it's a true myth.
So you believe that God created just male and female, man and woman. What about intersex people?
Intersex people have a congenital mutilation, but they have XY. Our friend Muppo, for example, our friend Muppo has XX chromosomes, but she overproduces testosterone, and so she has a congenital mutilation or a congenital problem. I'm not going to get into it. So what do you have to
say for someone that has XXY chromosomes?
Well, number one, me and Mythic were actually looking that up a while ago. We found no evidence that a person like that has ever existed. But even somebody that's a chromosomal issue. That's like somebody with an extra chromosome and Down syndrome. So it wouldn't even that would not be. You're not two sexes. You have a misrepresentation of chromosomal biology, right? Or genetics. So, yeah.
What you call them? If not, it will like are they male or female? If it like doesn't,
they would have a sex. They would have a primary sex.
Based on what? Your sex is defined by XX or XY. So what does XXY fit into?
XXY? No. So XX informs your chromosome. So first of all, like I said, we're not even necessarily sure if there's ever a confirmed example of this. But if somebody was XXY, they would be chromosomally female, but they would have an extra composite chromosome. By the way, there's a rule, and it doesn't disprove the rule to bring up we could tell that person has a problem. We could look at them, and the doctor, like I said, can go inside of them and tell them and diagnose them with a problem, with a congenital mutilation, with a chromosomal genetic mutilation, or not mutilation, deviation, and it would be scientifically identifiable. And we're not even sure this even exists. So if we're going to talk about...
what did you even look up to see? What was your research? Because I'm looking at Mayo Clinic, I'm looking at NHS UK, I'm looking at Medline Plus, a government website, kidshealth.org. We're all talking about XXY, so I don't know what research you did and you found nothing of the sort. But yeah, people with at the very least a gray area between man and woman, male and female, exist. So that right there kind of is like I don't know, maybe God forgot about that when he was having bro write the book of Genesis. I don't know what to tell you there.
No, that wouldn't. Again, exceptions don't disprove the rule. So when God is making a prescript, things go wrong. We live in a fallen world. So when things go wrong,
Oh, so
when things
there's
go wrong,
exceptions to God making just man and woman.
did the
There's
first
exceptions to man is man and
For-
woman is woman.
For example, we would describe that. We would explain this by saying, like, for example, when people choose to separate themselves from God, when they choose to participate in mortal sin, this typically happens. By the way, 1 in 500 million people are afflicted with this disease, and they don't even have like and they have a primary sex. They just have an extra X chromosome. They're men. They're sexually identified as males, but they have an extra X chromosome. XY. If you have an X chromosome and you have Y
someone who's like this before, since it's such a rare
if you have an X chromosome and you have a Y chromosome, you're a male. If you have that Y chromosome, you're a male. If you have an extra X chromosome, that doesn't change your sex. It's just an extra X chromosome. So way to have a non sequitur.
Wait, so men can have ovaries?
Men can again like men who are intersex,
Guys.
their testicles can be internal and they call it, or they can have ovaries, but they can have a penis, right? It's a deviation of what was supposed to happen. So
if someone has a penis and ovaries, what like that? It's just like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Like God made a oopsie.
If you have ovaries and they're not connected to a uterus, they're testes, they're internal testes. That's how they diagnose them. Just like an enlarged clitoris looks like a penis, right? When someone has an enlarged clitoris from testosterone overproduction, it looks like a penis. Not really a penis. Doesn't have a vas deferens. Isn't connected to the testes. Doesn't have a connection to the prostate, right? So we wouldn't actually diagnose that as ovaries because they're not connected to fallopian tubes. They're not connected to a uterus. They're internal testes is how we diagnose them. So again, another
a uterus and testicles are the same thing, but the ovaries and the testicles are the same thing to you?
No, when someone has when someone has ovaries or something that looks like ovaries in their body, they're usually
not something that looks like ovaries. It's not internal testicles. It's ovaries. It's like the actual
ovaries is an enlarged penis a clitoris, even though it looks like a penis?
Well, that's a gray area, but at some point, yes, an enlarged clitoris is just a penis. Our penises grow into. That's right. Our clitori grow into penises in the womb. Because we all start off as women.
Can you ever grow by just taking testosterone as a woman? Can you ever grow a fully formed penis with testes?
I don't know exactly how that works.
It looks like it because that's what testosterone influences. The physicality of what your enlarged clitoris looks like, bro. These are just all
right. Just to kind of change the topic because we're getting a little weird here. I'm gonna invite Juno up here because Juno wants to speak.
Yo, what's up?
Hi, Juno.
Yeah, one thing, this was a bit ago too. One thing I wanted to point out was when DCAS mentioned a fat person wanting to get skinnier as an analogy to what Brian was saying. But trying to look objectively at this, I would say that's a false analogy because someone wanting to get skinnier is not nearly the same as them having an actual delusion where they think they're skinny, but they're actually fat. So that wouldn't be an analogy for someone being anorexic who actually has a delusion where they think they're fat.
Yeah, it wouldn't be analogous to transgender either because it's healthy. Actually, you're supposed to be skinny.
How do you define a delusion?
Well, something that's in your mind that's not in reality. It's misrepresenting reality.
So if I, as a male, say I want to go along with these social and cultural norms associated with the female sex, then would you call that a delusion?
Why do you want to do that?
It doesn't matter why. I'm just asking why. Well, not asking why. I'm asking, would you say that's a delusion?
Yeah. So that's a different claim than trans women are women. By the way, you're just saying I want to be an onogonophilic.
I'm making a different claim. I'm walking with baby steps. We can't take the big steps yet.
Well, I would say that still definitely leads into a delusion because when people are socially transitioning, I'm pretty sure it becomes way more likely they also medically transition. And what Brian said also, people having a fetish of like acting as the other gender, I I just don't think that's healthy, because what if a child was referring to them like that in public and they got off on it? I just think that's really weird, and that'd be indecency in my opinion, because I don't think you should be doing that in public. It's not modest.
Well, like again, like if someone gets like gets a hard on from like getting yelled at, and then you yell at them in public, right? Then like it's like you don't I don't care, bro. Like if I'm yelling at you, I'm yelling at you for a reason. I don't get the point.
Well, but if
don't see
you
the point of-
if you can physically see that like they're getting turned on from that, I'm not even like I'm just not gonna be interested. I'm literally just gonna like walk away.
Yeah, you could
Like,
walk
that's
away.
weird.
It's not that deep. Like literally just walk away if you want to, I guess.
It is that deep, because it would eventually create a society that's just having that normalized, and that's like just public indecency. You're just like,
Well, like
getting
my
rid-
point is not that should be normalized. I feel like I mean let me be clear. Autogynephilia is weird as shit. I'm just saying that the small percentage of people who are autogynephilic should not represent the entirety of trans people. Like I don't see people that are weird like Lily Tino, and I'm like, oh, this trans person is weird, so I'm gonna think that all trans people are weird.
Well, I
So
would
why
just
don't you
say,
use
I would
like-
just say at that, hold on, I would just say at that point, you're almost special pleading to a certain situation, because then your principle isn't epistemic. It doesn't hold for all
Why
situations.
bro, can we get an epistemic justification for why we should tolerate this nonsense? Like, that was the question. Like, trans women are women is the name of the debate. Trans women are not women because, first of all, there's a qualifier. You need to qualify trans women because they are literally opposed. They're in the opposite. They're in the opposition.
What qualifies you to be a woman?
To have what qualifies you to be a woman is to be an adult human female, and a female is the sex that is opposed to the male sex, and a female is somebody who has XX chromosomes and who is typically of the nature to give birth and menstruate and to do all these things. That's what makes a female.
So what I propose is that a woman is not an adult human female. A woman is most of the time an adult human female, but a woman more accurately so to describe women is someone who aligns themselves with the social and cultural norms associated with the female sex. It's
Okay,
a
well then-
separate thing
then-
from the sex itself.
Yeah, the
You know what
problem
I
with that though,
propose?
it destroys your whole principle though, because you're just giving. It's like Pluto almost. Like you're like reinventing like new principles for something that
You know what
was never
epistemology is?
epistemic.
Rita?
Yeah,
You know what
words can change meaning over time.
No, yeah, concepts don't.
Yeah,
so I
but
could
reality and
yeah.
like concepts don't change meaning.
Look,
So
we could
do you
change.
you still call like
I could change women to mean man. But that, like, the word, the symbol that we use to represent the thing in reality will not change, right? So women reflect is a symbol. We use language to symbolize concepts and things. So if I say this is a cup, say it's a bobble glass, the reflection of the symbolic nature of the word, as long as we all know what the actual concept is, will never change. If we didn't even have the conceptual ability to label things male and female, then it would still exist. Male and female would still exist. If we got wiped off the planet tomorrow, cheetahs would still have a male sex and they would still have a female sex. Lions would still have a female sex and a male sex. And they would do things that are in line with biological predispositions of the female and male sex within their species. So it's just this
but
is
we're not animals in the same way that a lion is. Like we're technically animals, but we're like you're Christian, right? We're different from these animals. We understand them better. We understand
What the
ourselves
difference-
better than animals understand themselves.
You know what the difference is?
We're intelligent. We're made in the image of God, according to you.
Okay, so the difference is going to be a rational faculty, okay, and a will. So I use my will to interpret my rational faculty, then use my will. So we actually have the ability to use a rational faculty to actually encapsulate some of these meanings and create symbols in words and language or in drawings or in art to symbolize real concepts, but those real concepts never conceptually change. Women are women, men are men, they can't transition. And you said, oh, I have a proposal. Here's my proposal. My proposal is we go back to how things were 50 years ago. Men are men, women are women, men have roles, women have roles. And people that have we can be very charitable to people that have like confusing views, they have misperceptions about the reality of the situation. But if people identify with this like social phenomenon are killing themselves at 45% higher than anybody else, right, then guess what? I think it's time that, well, Trump just signed an executive order doing this, is that we got to reopen some of these loony bins. We got to institutionalize these people and get them the mental health that they need. And instead of carving up their bodies like Frankenstein and castrating little children and making a bunch of accommodations in our civilization, destroying women's sports, getting women no privacy, putting men, weird perverted men, into locker rooms and bathrooms with women, destroying civilization, creating boxing matches where men beat the shit out of women. We don't need this. All for a couple of weird perverts. We don't need this. It's a social contagion. It's a sexual fetish, or it's a body dysmorphic disorder, and we should be very kind to the people who are afflicted with the ailment, but we should not let them have any say in the matter. They're unfit to govern themselves because they don't even know the physical reality of who they are or what they're supposed to be.
All right, so we're gonna pull Fractured. He had something he wanted to add to the conversation.
Hey, what's up? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I got a question for you, DKAS. Do you have any interest in the neurology behind people being gay or trans or any of those things? Like, have you looked into it at all?
I know it's definitely like it's not studied enough. There isn't that much funding for research for like transgenders as a whole, or like pretty much LGBTQ topics as a whole don't get a lot of funding because of people like Brian here who are just like, yeah, we need to throw them all in a loony bin. They're delusional. They're crazy.
Well, I don't really see it that way. I think there's a lot of research, but it doesn't point in really any solid directions. There are a lot of people who like to quote the neurology and say, oh, like if you look at the brains of trans women and compare them to women, they resemble that of women more than men. So there's some validity to these claims, but I've just personally looked into a lot of these things just in my free time, like a year ago. So if I do quote things like, I do have sources. I've even made like a couple of videos on them, but they're over there and I'm on my phone right now and like I'm getting ready to go to bed. But my opinion is I think there's actually a lot of neurological evidence to suggest that these things, there's nothing definitive to prove that being trans is something innate to us. And what we can actually see is it's more of just like a difference in personality, really, at the end of the day. Just even listening to you, I can definitely see that you have a different personality. You don't fit in as much with other guys, but I don't think that necessarily means you're a woman. I don't, and I say this respectfully, but I say it from a place of when you look at the neurology, if we did a brain scan, there would be a likelihood that your brain would resemble that of a woman more than a man. But at the same time, there are tons of women who identify as women who also their brain scans would show as men because of the neurological pathways being different. And I genuinely think that when it comes to these things, you can acknowledge a lot of the things you're saying in terms of, hey, there's difference of personality. People want to be different in their own ways, but I just don't agree that there's any evidence whatsoever. And all of the evidence we have points to this really being connected to abuse. And I say this respectfully. Even Hyper recently linked an article. I haven't read it, but just him mentioning the hypothalamus, he said that there's some evidence to show that there's a difference in the hypothalamus for people who are trans. Like I think male to female or female to male, there's variation. And anything that is, there's a lot of evidence to also suggest that when it comes to the variation of the hypothalamus that's connected to chronic long-term life stress or traumatic events in their life that change those things. And if it comes from trauma or chronic long-term stress, if we were to assume, based off of the evidence we do have, which really strongly points to it, how could you suggest that these symptoms, these effects, are healthy and something we should promote in our society? I don't see anything logical pointing to that.
Sorry, I had a response to the first thing you said and the first couple of things you said, and then I lost it. So I'll just respond to the last thing that you said. Basically, I won't tackle this from like my answer is going to be very anecdotal, so take it with a grain of salt, basically. So basically, not to like get too deep into it, but I've been diagnosed with this disorder called dissociative identity disorder, and I find it to be very similar to the way we understand what being trans is now. So if I concede, right, I'm not saying this is the case, but if I say, yeah, okay, it's a mental disorder, right? That doesn't mean A, that you can cure it, you can get rid of it, and it doesn't mean B, that not affirming it is the right path. Because you can see this exact same these two things I just mentioned with dissociative identity disorder in my instance, because it does vary case to case a lot. You see that you can't get rid of it, A, right? So no matter what, I'm always going to have this disorder. I'm always going to be trans. And then B, the not affirming it, because a lot of people, their first reaction is to not affirm it, because what dissociative identity disorder does is it's basically multiple personality disorder. You have multiple personalities. Sometimes they talk to each other. Blah blah. I'm fucking crazy, you know. So for people, their first instinct will be like, "What? You're one person. You're not multiple people. You need to act like one person," and that does not help. In fact, that hurts in the sense that if I don't acknowledge that they're there, that the other personalities are there, I will then lose more control over my disorder, making it harder to manage.
I would actually agree with a lot of the things you say. I definitely would agree with that. I definitely think that just because, like, let's assume everything I said was true, it doesn't mean that, like, for example, conversion therapy would be the answer, especially considering there are different. Like, if you know anything about the history about it, there are like some really messed up things that they flat out did, which were like horrible. And it just because, like, if we acknowledge that it's not healthy or it's caused by trauma, that we can necessarily cure it or fix it, and it doesn't necessarily mean we even have the answer for it or the alternatives are healthier. But I do have a question for you. If we did have evidence to suggest that one of these pathways, I'm not even saying conversion therapy, because that definition in itself is messed up, because any attempt you make to change your sexuality or identity counts as conversion therapy, which is just ludicrous. It's like saying the definition of medicine is any attempts to make yourself no longer sick. It's like, okay, that includes literally everything harmful as well. So, but if there was evidence to suggest that we did have a path you could take and you would no longer be trans, would you be open to that? Or because that's like a kicker part for it, because I think there are a lot of people who say, I'm not in favor of it because it doesn't work. But at the end of the day, it's simply a choice, because even if there was that option, I'm not sure a lot of people would still take it. Would you?
Yeah, I think you're right on the money with that. Like, not only is it just to restate what you said so that everyone else can understand. Not only is it that just because even if it's provable that it is a mental disorder, doesn't mean that we can treat it to make it go away, and doesn't mean that we should not affirm it. That being said, if there was something out there that could like get rid of my transness, I honestly don't think I would do it. I don't think a lot of people would. Like, I honestly just like I'm just happy as a woman, right? Like, I look kind of like a woman. Like, kind of like a woman. I'm happy with what I am. I'm very content with myself in this point of my life. So no, I wouldn't I would not untrans myself if given the chance.
Gotcha. That's just mainly
By the
what I
way,
wanted to ask, and I don't want
my
to take any more time. I think that's a good note to end it on. It was just wanted to ask those
we'll move
questions.
on. My fiance, who is a trans man, says that he would. So yeah, I wouldn't, but he would apparently.
No, I do. I do know that a lot of people. It's not for everybody when they say this, but I do know that there are a lot of people who say they're trans, and it's really sad to read a lot of the things that they say, because they flat out are like suffering, and it's like a really sad thing. So like my heart does go out to those people and everything, but that's just one of the reasons why I had to ask. I was just curious. But I'll be taking my leave. I appreciate the time.
All right, thank you for extra.
Yeah, I definitely think that like for some people it would be like I know this detransitioner, Brian knows them too. Like they ended up just being happier as a woman. They're just like, yeah, I'm not trans. And I think detransitioners like that are like completely valid. But I think also I'm completely valid in saying I would be happier. I am happier as a woman.
Decaf,
I feel like it's all about freedom, and like we shouldn't
hey,
be
Decaf,
policing what grown adults are doing. If I want to shoot up estrogen in my thigh, so
you want
fucking
to shoot up
beautiful.
heroin?
Heroin?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that that's the same thing.
It's applicable. Like what if you want to shoot up heroin? You said you want freedom. It's about freedom. So what if you want to shoot up heroin?
I guess if I know all the risks, like if it's under the exact same circumstances, right? I know all the risks. Some medical professional was like, "Here's the safe dose of heroin. This will not kill you." I would say, if honestly, go ahead, bro.
Okay, so you're saying like if your justification, your epistemic justification here, if I got one, is that it is a delusion. It's not rooted in reality, but you deserve the freedom to express how you want to express yourself, even if it means killing yourself slowly. Yeah.
I never said it was any of that, but if I think whether or not it is a delusion, whether or not it is real, factual, either way, I think it is not that deep of a problem to where we need to be going like, oh, this is outlawed, that is outlawed. You are a man. You're not a woman. I feel like that's just doing way too much, bro. Like
Okay,
I feel,
so
wait, hold on. A little. Let me put on my tinfoil hat for a second. I feel like this whole like trans thing has just been a psyop from like the right wingers. They want us to like they not like you as a right winger, but like the right wingers in power. They want us to like argue over this dumb shit that doesn't matter, so that we don't focus on the actual problem.
I kind of agree, okay, because Trump ran on like banning the trans issue, and Congress has been in session for like 7 months and they haven't banned it. Even for minors, they haven't banned it, which they should. So I don't like totally disagree with you there. Cynical politicians use the issue, but my problem that I'm going to have with your statement is that I believe that our civilization should be built transcendentally. So what that means is I believe our civilization says that our civilization should be built on reality. So truth, goodness, and beauty. I believe our civilization should be true and endorse true things. It should endorse good things, virtuous things, and it should endorse beautiful things. Transgenderism is false, as we've been over. You even admitted like it could be false, you would still do it. So it's false. It's not beautiful. It's actually disgusting. You ruin yourself, and that's why all trans people basically are ugly. It manifests, and it's also not good. It's not virtuous, and it destroys you and it kills you. By definition, killing yourself slowly with estrogen or testosterone, or giving yourself an axe wound and mutilating your genitals, or peeling skin off your back and your arm and trying to construct a phallus using a phalloplasty, which has all sorts of which has all sorts of infection problems, and it fails most of the time. All these things are not true, they're not good, and they're not beautiful. And I want to live in a civilization that is based on those three things. Killing babies is not good, it's not true, and it's not beautiful. Transing little kids and transing adults is not good, not true, not beautiful. And you posited a question to me. You said, why? Even if it's a delusion, why can't adults do what they want? Well, because my civilization ought to reflect reality. We ought to affirm reality. If you want to stay in your house and dress up like a girl and have sex with men or have sex with women or do whatever perverted things that you would like to do, that's all means. I'm not Iran. I'm not the purity police. We don't want to come knocking at your door and inspect whose genitals are being involved in what activities. What we do want is normative authoritarian rule, where we want to control the authority in public. I don't want my civilization to look ugly in public, and when you sponsor untruthhoods, when you sponsor things that are not virtuous, it destroys reality and it creates an ugly civilization, and I hate that. I hate that for me. I hate that for my family. I hate that for my countrymen, and I hate that for the individuals that unfortunately are under this delusion. And my heart goes out to them. Truly, I pray about them every night. I hope that they get better, but we ought not to. My civilization ought to reflect reality, and that's why I deserve to have a country that is focused on true, good, and beautiful things. And when we don't do that, when we focus on these trivial, nonsensical things, it distracts and it makes us lethal. It makes us less prepared, and it makes us less beautiful and good and true as a country. And that's why I would say I don't care about that. What you
Brian,
posited.
I, I want to tackle all of what you said, but this one thing actually made my fucking blood boil. Literally, my heart goes out to them. Like I hate
Does
with a burning passion people who, not people, but like the action of trying to act like you like love these people or like care for these people. But it's not love, bro. Like you have to be you have to be real. It's not
What is
love.
love?
Love is that. Didn't I already go over this with you?
Love is to will the good of the other, and if I believe that what you're doing is false, not true, and not beautiful, then it is love to pray that you don't, to pray and to enact into policy that you ought not do these things to yourself, or I ought to protect. And by the way, that's not even how we're coming at it. When I make a law, like as a conservative, like when we draft laws banning this stuff, we're not saying you don't have to, you can't transition. That's not the law. It bans surgeons from doing these things because the surgeons are the ones responsible for this nonsense. The physicians that are profiting off of $100,000 surgeries, off of giving you chemical castration jugs for the rest of your life. These people are the real predators. You're not the actual. You might be a predator. I have no idea, but most trans people, I would say, or people that identify as trans, are being abused by these doctors. So when we saw, I do will the good of them. I do love them. I don't want them to abuse themselves. I don't want them to get abused by doctors. I hate that. So, hate the sin, love the sinner. I think that pride goeth before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. I think pride is the queen of all sins, and the sin of all queens. And I think that all these people are struggling.
It's just giving me a headache, bro. You love the sin, not the sinner. First of all, it's not a sin. Second of all, like we already went over this, but second of all, like you can't just say it's identity. It's your gender identity. Identity is a part of the word. So you love what you think. You love what you think in your head I should be and act like, but you don't love me. Like that. That's where that's where I have the problem. You don't love me. You can't tell me you love me and then you don't like a part of my identity. It's like, oh, I love you. I just don't love your autism. It's kind of annoying.
What? So
It's
if I'm a drug
the
addict,
thing.
you don't like drug addict? Do you not love me?
Being a drug addict is not a part of your identity.
What's identity?
It's you as a person. It's who you are. So like if I say my name is Kayla, that's my identity. If I say I'm a woman, that's my identity. If I say I do heroin, that's not my identity. That it's something that I do in my free time.
I'd identify you with you of that. If you were doing heroin, I'd say you're a drug addict. Part of your identity, composite to your identity.
Well, I would attribute your dumb arguments to you or your identity, but that doesn't make that part of your identity. I'm sure like there's more to you than just your stupid arguments. Like you're Brian, that's a part of your identity. You're a man. You.
No, my arguments come from my belief system, which is intrinsically attached to my identity.
So you're saying your dumb arguments are a part of your identity?
I think they're fairly persuasive arguments, but you'd like to say.
All right.
I mean,
so I want to pull one more person up here. I don't know. I haven't seen them in chat much, but hello, Lima.
I have a question to take, because I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Decaz. Yeah, questions today.
Yeah. An atheist doesn't have to explain God. He doesn't have to describe God, doesn't he?
An atheist doesn't need to describe God. I guess not. No.
No, it doesn't. So why can't a person who doesn't believe in gender have to explain that it exists? Gender only exists on people that think gender exists. The idea that you have to explain something that for you is inexplicable because it doesn't exist is something close to intellectual absolutism, something that postmodernists love, like gender theory, the non-existence of reverse racism, the only explainable by minds that believe in them. You cannot prove gender. Gender exists in a vacuum.
saying you don't have a you don't have an epistemic justification for your definition. You can't even define your definition because if it doesn't make ontological sense.
Well, I don't get how it doesn't make sense, but okay. I was about to say, in the same way, you don't have to like go into depth of it. I guess I'll change my answer to your initial question. An atheist doesn't need to understand exactly how God works to say I don't believe in God. but they still get the general idea, like, yeah, God is a creator, right, or something like that. In the same way, right?
No,
Yeah.
no. An atheist has to refute the theist. He has to refute the theist. The atheist doesn't come up with God. The atheist does not come up with
I
God.
get that. I get that.
He,
But
he,
in order, you have to understand it though at a base level.
you have to understand it, but you cannot prove. But you can explain God, and at the extent that you start believing it, and you don't start believing in it, you kind of disprove him. The same thing with gender. It's such a subjective experience that it only exists on people that experience gender.
Yeah, that's why it's respectful to just take what people say and go with it.
So you are proving me right. You are proving that gender doesn't have epistemology like
It's a very complicated subject that requires like explaining, but you don't have. I'm not saying you have to understand how gender works. You don't have to understand that I am a woman. I just tell you my name is Kayla and my pronouns are she, her, and you can be respectful and respect that, or you can.
I don't hate you, Kayla. I don't hate you,
Lima, let me
Kayla.
just ask something real quick. Kayla, do you think race is more fluid than gender?
Is race more fluid than gender? I don't think so.
Well, by definition, it is, because I could be multiple races.
I guess, yeah.
So transracialism actually makes more ontological sense than transgenderism. If I can be, because I technically can't, I can trace an ancestor back to where I was black, like a black ancestor, an African ancestor, and so then I could just be like, oh yeah, I completely identify with everything in every cultural aspect of African Americanism, I guess, because I have like African American culture. So now I'm gonna run around screaming the N-word, and I'm gonna nobody can press me on that because race is more fluid. Race is truly more fluid.
If you
I can be black. I can be black. Somewhere in my genealogy, I probably am. Somebody else is probably Hispanic in their genealogy, but their ancestors have lived in America for 5 generations, and they've married a bunch of white people. So like Nick Fuentes is Hispanic, but he's a white supremacist. So he's like, does he identify with that? That's more fluid than gender.
You're making a good point here. So what I've been saying, right, is that if you look black, I don't care if you say the N-word.
Well, people tell me I look like Steph Curry. Can I say the N-word?
You can get away with being mixed. Like, I guess in that lighting, I wouldn't like side eye it too hard.
Like if I was just like yo, and I started just saying the N-word, like that'd be cool.
Yeah, because you look kind of mixed. Like, but I'm not gonna be if you say the N-word to me, right? You're like, what up, my, and then, like, am I gonna, like, interrogate you and be like, okay, show me your ancestry papers that show that you are over 50% black? Like, that's basically what you're saying. Like, I'm telling you I'm a woman, and you're like, no, show me your chromosomes, show me your penis, you're a man. Like, it's the same
point
thing.
Is race is actually the point is racial identitarianism in it, like racial transracialism is not accepted. If I went on TV and said I was black and said the N-word, I would not be accepted in civilization. We've already seen multiple examples of this, like Dolezal and whatever her name was.
Black, what's the problem?
She did look black, but her ancestors were white, and black people were like, "Fuck you!" Like you're taking your culture vulture, blah blah blah. So. Transracialism is not a thing.
I don't think it's that deep.
Number one, what if I didn't look black at all, but I started getting surgeries to make myself look more black? I widened my nose, my ridge of my nose, and then I was like, yo, what up, N-words? How's everybody? Would that work still?
That's none of my business. I wouldn't
It's the
care.
point.
Like, this statement is contingent on me.
Race is definitely more fluid than sex.
Like, I'm not as bigoted as you.
No, race is more fluid than sex. Sex is not fluid at all. Gender is not fluid at all.
Well,
Gender is a descriptor of sex. Race is actually fluid, but we don't accept transracialism in civilization because it's obviously ridiculous. And we should do the same thing for.
I'm telling you right now, if you got some sort of surgery that made your nose look like a black person, your skin look like a black person, your hair look like a black person, and you just look like a black person, even if you weren't exactly there, I'd be like, something's off, but like I don't really care that much. I wouldn't care. Like, I agree with like people being free. Like if you look black enough, that's good enough for most people.
Okay, I have a question from Hyper in the chat. If there was
Wait, Mace,
evidence
1 second.
that gender affirming care improved the quality of life for trans people, would you support it? I assume that is for Mariah.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
If there was evidence that
Because
gender
I think,
affirming care improved the quality of life.
yeah, I mean, usually you're going to be relying on self-reported data, which is like if I'm a pothead, I can say that the use of pot like really makes my life a lot better, and it improves
You
my quality
see,
of life.
this is exactly how you know he's arguing in bad faith, because he's like, oh, well, the statistics are probably skewed in this hypothetical in which I'm getting statistics that disprove my argument. It's obviously going to be skewed, guys.
No, I'm not even saying they're screwed. That's how you would get that information. It's self-reported data on happiness levels. And I mean, all the data that we have that is physical and tangible shows that the suicide rates go up, anxiety goes up, depression goes up. All these things actually go up.
People who are on ventilators die of asphyxiation more often.
Yeah,
We should
so,
go to
I mean,
ventilators, guys.
I still wouldn't accept it because I think that people can live
Okay,
out of accordance in reality.
Quick follow up on that. Assume you had empirical evidence that it involves QOL. Oh my gosh, what does that mean? What were we just saying? Qualifying, like
So assume that I had, okay, so let's assume that trans people after let's assume that the data show the opposite, right? Than it shows in reality. Let's assume that men who transition to be women, they stopped killing themselves. Like post-surgery and pre-surgery, the suicide rate like dropped off a cliff, and I still wouldn't support it because it's out of accordance with reality. And if it's out of accordance with reality, then it's truly not happiness. Happiness is rational activity pursued with virtue in accordance with, or pursued with excellence in accordance with virtue.
What is
So I still wouldn't define that as the true happiness. Yeah, so that's a no.
so?
Hey,
I
Mace.
don't care about the facts. I feel like it's wrong. Feelings are better than facts. So I still disagree.
Happiness is rational activity pursued with excellence in accordance with virtue.
And the hypothetical study says that it increases happiness.
Yeah, it's not rational, it's not excellent, and it's not, and you're not pursuing virtue. So I wouldn't say that it increases happiness. That's an artificial method.
No,
That's
it says it increases happiness. It doesn't matter what you define as happiness. It says it increases happiness. Everyone needs it.
One, we're in reality right now, and in reality, it says the opposite. It says it destroys happiness, and they kill themselves at a higher rate. They're more anxious. They're more depressed. But in
I do right wingers suck with hypotheticals. It's like every single right winger I see, they suck with hypotheticals specifically.
In this hypothetical, right, is that I would not accept any definition of happiness because by definition it wouldn't be happiness because happiness is rational. Transgenderism is not rational. Happiness is.
So you don't care about the facts. It's just wrong to you, so you don't give a fuck.
Yeah, we're making ontological arguments. So I don't understand what you're not saying or seeing. If something is not rational, then you can't be happy. Like if you're pursuing something out of accordance with rationality, it's not going to make you happy. I don't care if you're content at the moment, but true happiness is rational activity pursued with excellence in accordance with virtue. So I would say that it's not virtuous, it's not being pursued in excellence, and it's not rational. So we wouldn't by definition, even if you said, oh yeah, it increases marginal happiness, we would just say, no, it doesn't. But and if you want to respond to that, DCAS, I do want to make a closing statement, and I got to go because I got to go eat soon. This place is about to close.
Oh my god, thank goodness.
Okay.
Closing statement.
We can go ahead and get the closing statements. We can do 4 minutes.
Hey,
What's good?
Hey, before you start, for the video title, can you screenshot this picture and make it the video title? Can you?
Maybe
Like that.
We'll see. You mean a thumbnail? Yeah. We'll consider it. We'll consider it.
Okay.
4-minute timer. We'll give it to Brian this time because DCAS had the first opening. So the first closing can start with Brian.
All right. So I would just say, like, as we've been through this debate, right? By the way, DCAS is like we're cool privately. I don't agree with his explanations and his ontology and whatever, but we're cool privately. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but I would say that as we went through the debate, and I tried to define epistemology, and I tried to define what an epistemic justification is, and we're trying to get one, and we're trying to move through what kind of truth claim could be actually being made here. Notice the obfuscations, notice the non sequiturs, notice all these things. So we can't actually get clear definitions, and it's all about my individual will, right? It's about like, what can I do? What can I say? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Give me rights, give me entitlements. I fundamentally just disagree with that kind of like viewpoint on civilization. I think that true, and actually the founding fathers say this. The founding fathers say that true happiness and true freedom, true liberty is not license. Licentiousness is evil. And it's the other side of the coin of liberty. True liberty is the right to do what you ought. And all of our framers believed this, and they said this. And the reason why this is really important is because I tend to view the world, and especially my civilization, my country, and by extension, my countrymen. I believe that everybody should view their role in civilization primarily through the lens of duties and obligations. I believe that we have duties, we have we have duties, we have obligations, and we have rights in order to pursue those duties and obligations. They guarantee them for us. We are made in the image and likeness of God, and that's what guarantees our human rights that we get guaranteed to us by our government in relation to God. And we ought to pursue the things that we ought to pursue the things that we ought to pursue. We ought to pursue the good, the true, and the beauty and the beautiful. And I think that as we've gone through this debate and we've avoided the epistemology of it all, and we've avoided the medication of it all and how it negatively affects, we notice that we get small little surrenders as we go on. We notice that we get, yeah, it harms you, but, I'd like to pursue it anyways. Or, yeah, I do think that some trans people are onogonophilics, and that's a problem, but that's not the vast majority of people. Or I do see that affirming somebody in their delusions might not always be correct. Or I do see that socially transitioning children might not always be the best thing, because then it inevitably leads to medical transition. We get these little surrenders, but ultimately what DCAS here ends up surrendering in the end is the ontological claim, is the claim that trans women are women, which is verifiably false. It's a falsifiable claim. And that is where I believe that DCAS went wrong here, is that if you want to talk about this, you ultimately have to avoid those three first topics, the sexual perversion, the body dysmorphic disorder, and the social contagion, because those are all falsifiable, and I can prove that using my rational faculty to our audience, to everybody watching, maybe few as they are. But you should have stuck to that last one. You should have stuck to a religious claim, because then I can't falsify that. I can't say, you could just say, I feel like a woman, my soul is a woman's soul, God put the soul in the wrong, but I could maybe go into the theology of it, right? I could prove why I believe that's wrong, but then ultimately that's theological. So I believe that's where you truly messed up. With a bunch of claims that I falsified in this debate. And I feel like next time, if you want to try to win the debate, you can't, because this is an easily falsifiable topic, and you can't just make these claims that I'm going to just mow through. So I enjoyed the debate, but yeah, I think that ultimately the truth is clear on this.
All right. DCAS, 4-minute closing statement starts now.
Yeah, this guy reminds me of Charlie Kirk a lot, which is, I think that's kind of why I like debating you so much, and I won't leave you alone, because like I just love Charlie Kirk, bro. But at the end of the day, when all is said and done, if he gets disproved in a point, he moves on to the next point fast as he possibly can. Every single time I disprove something, he's like, okay, on the next point, next thing. Like he couldn't really defend half of his arguments. Some of these things he kind of stood his ground on. Like, I guess like he said, like it can be bad for you. But I just honestly think if you weigh in the pros and cons of a decision, you're an adult person. You're an adult. You can do what the fuck you want. If you want to inject estrogen into you, if you want to inject testosterone, do it, bro. If you want to drink alcohol, don't ban that shit. I don't think you should drink alcohol. I think you have a right to be able to say, okay, I don't think you should inject estrogen into your body. But to go as far as to say, yeah, that should be banned in our society, that's ludicrous. But like, it just, no matter what way you spin it, it's not a sin. Like Christians just say it's like a sin because they don't agree with it. That's what Christianity is about half the time. It's just, I have this belief. Let's twist the Bible into making people think that this is our belief. This is exactly what Jesus warned about. The people, I won't go into like a whole big thing about this, but like Jesus warned about this stuff. Literally, the Pharisees coming in and imposing laws, using the Bible, using the Word of God to control people, and that's what these people do. and they're just hypocrites at the end of the day. Because for you, you keep away the gates of heaven while you yourselves do not enter, something like that. Matthew 23:13. But aside from that, this is not a religious debate. It's about trans people. Trans women are women, trans men are men. They can try to erase us, they can try to get rid of our health care, they can try to tear us down from who we are, and they can say they're doing it out of love, but at the end of the day, this is an abusive relationship, and there is no love to be found. I don't see any love. I don't feel any love. A lot of my trans brothers and sisters, they don't feel any love. And I think we need to I think we need to acknowledge that. Like, if you're gonna treat us like shit, which in your worldview you're not, but if people are saying you're treating them like shit, maybe you should listen to them. If you're treating people like shit, maybe we should listen to them and just hear them out. Which I guess you're hearing me out, Brian, but I feel like you just are arguing in bad faith for 80% of this. It's literally just point after point after point, on to the next one, on to the next one. What's your this? What's your that? What's your epistemic principle? When it's literally just like we went through the hypothetical. If it was proven that this was helpful, if this was a good thing, if this made people happy, there's literally you wouldn't be for it. So it doesn't matter to you if this is a good thing or if it's a bad thing. You don't like this. Other Christians don't like this. Other right-wingers don't like this. So they want to get rid of it. The facts don't matter. All that matters is your guys' opinions. And I close it, I end it by saying, if you're trans, keep being trans. You guys are awesome. If you're transphobic, you should probably stop that. But I guess, have your opinions. Don't bring that shit. Don't bring that dumbass opinion over here.
All right.
We're coming after all of it. We're coming after all of it. All the rights. They will be
we're gonna fight back, bro. We're gonna fight back, bro.
all of the rights.
Yo, pull up.
I think that was a pretty solid debate. For those who didn't get to enjoy it all, the VOD will be up until I get the actual video out. As for now, the debate is over. Great debate. Thank you, DCast. Thank you, Brian.
Great debate. I'm being yelled at to go to sleep, so I'm gonna finish typing this message in the chat and then good night.
I really hope you enjoyed that debate. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, join the Discord server if you want to come debate yourself. You could be the next debate night participant. Who knows? The video won't be out for like 6 months, maybe. I don't know. But that's all I have for you today. Goodbye.